you oftentimes hear this goofy ass fucking narrative that when I got them the clothes, I didn't understand why, but they preferred wearing clothes from the dress up bin. I laughed this off as peculiar, not understanding what they were trying to tell me. You often hear that narrative where it's like, well, if they start dressing up, wearing dresses and shit, then that's them subliminally saying, "Oh, I want to be a girl because I wear these clothes." And it's like then when my children were 6 and 7, I started dating someone who was non-binary and used they/them pronouns. And this was my first introduction to this, as well as my children's. Partner patiently explained the concept to my children, saying they were neither a girl nor a boy, but somewhere in between and a little of both. Now, if somebody ever said that shit to my children, if somebody was to ever say that with the intent of them soaking up that information and you to any measure, you have to leave. You got to go. We will never speak again. Do not ever, like, you do not have permission to teach my children anything that I don't. If I wanted to teach my children that you could drink concrete through a straw, if I wanted to teach my kids that, they're my kids. I will teach them what I want. You do not, just because you're a friend of me or we tight or whatever, does not mean you can put messages in my kids' heads. You have lost your fucking mind, like, entirely. The fuck? You know? All right. So I think I've come up with a new opening segment. I'm gonna call it the clapback, and it's gonna be a stipulation to the clapback. It works kind of like a roast does, you know. So like in a roast, everybody comes up, they roast the fuck out of whoever the roast is for, and at the end, the person getting roasted gets to roast back everybody, you know. So that ties into this because when I do the clapback segment, I'm gonna read this. I'm gonna express in a complete thought, no interruptions. All my points will be held until the end, and then I deliver it in one swift blow because I like to talk and I be having to get shit out when it's on my mind. Otherwise, I'll fucking forget it because half the time, blow as fuck when I be doing these podcasts. So I be trying to stay on focus and stay on topic. So we're gonna do this thing right here. I found this article courtesy of Insider. It says my child came out as non-binary at 6 years old. Here's what I've learned as their parent. So we'll glance at the highlights quickly. Non-binary identity, parental support, self-confidence. Okay, so let's just keep that in mind. I it's so weird to not instinctually just jump in the middle of this shit. You don't know how bad I want to. Okay. At 6, my kid told me they were a gender bender and didn't feel like a boy or a girl. It's been a difficult learning curve, but I've supported my kid. It's been 10 years and my child still happily identifies as non binary. I am fabulous. My child stood at the top of the stairwell, hips cocked to the side, one hand raised in the air in a classic diva pose. They were wearing a leopard print dress over a pair of camouflage cargo pants. Their backpack leaned against the wall next to them. It had been a few weeks since I had taken them shopping, watching their eyes light up as they touched dresses and skirts, asking, "For me? Is this for me?" At first, I let my kid wear these new clothes only at home. I was too scared of how their classmates might react. But the day they were standing at the top of the stairs was the first time they'd be heading out the door with the new clothes and their newfound identity as a non binary person. Even as a toddler, my child was different. They didn't want to wear the clothes I got them and cry hysterically when I tried to get them dressed in the mornings. I didn't understand why, but they much preferred wearing clothes from the dress up bin. I laughed this off as peculiar, not understanding what they were trying to tell me with their limited language. Then, when my children were 6 and 7, I started dating someone who was non binary and used they them pronouns. This was my first introduction to this, as well as my children's. My partner patiently explained the concept to my children, saying they were neither a girl nor a boy, but somewhere in between and a little of both. They told them about gender, what it was, and that it's a spectrum. Within days of meeting my new partner, my younger child told me, "That's me too, mommy." I thought maybe it was just because they thought my new partner was cool and they wanted to be like them. But days went on and they kept insisting that they too were non binary. Hang on, there we go. Okay. Boy, oh boy. Soon after, their first grade teacher sent home an assignment for students to write about themselves. My child wrote painstakingly, "I'm like the airbender. I'm a gender bender." I thought back on all the times that they put on the princess dresses from the dress up box and remember all the times they tried to take clothes from their sister. I remembered the Halloween they were 3 years old and wanted, excuse me, nothing more than to be a pink and purple sparkly dragonfly. I realized this wasn't a phase. My child was only 6 years old, but they knew who they were and had for quite some time. They weren't a boy or a girl, but something in between. They've been trying to tell me. They just hadn't had the language for it. My job as a parent is to support them in becoming the best versions of themselves. Sometimes support means helping them pursue a new passion or learn a hobby. Other times it means teaching them values and morals. Still, other times, like this time, it means helping them to embrace their authenticity. So I began using different pronouns. I took my child shopping for clothing and accessories that affirmed who they were. I advocated for them at the school, and I stood up for them in their rights in school board meetings with other adults. It was a learning experience for me. I didn't always get it right. There were times that I thought it would be easier if they weren't non binary. There were times I stumbled over an answer when people asked whether I had a daughter or a son. There were times, still are times, that I feared for my child's safety because they were different. But through it all, my child maintained their identity, becoming stronger and stronger in self, proud, and beautiful. I learned from my child what it meant to be oneself, unapologetically. I've learned from them that you must stay true to who you are, even in the face of adversaries or those who question you. I learned from my child's strength. It was 10 years ago that my child stood at the top of the stairs proclaiming how fabulous they were. They've not wavered in who they are since the day they proclaimed that they were a gender bender. Despite children teasing them, family not accepting their identity or pronouns, and all the obstacles of being a non binary in a very binary culture, they have remained true to themselves. They are a senior in high school now, and they've given up the leopard dress for a daily outfit of black joggers and some sort of cat t shirt. They aren't nearly as diva as they were back then, but in my eyes, they are still just as fabulous. Okay, so they got a little poll here. It says, "What have you learned as a parent of a non-binary child?" It's important to listen. It's challenging or it's rewarding. Uh, I'm just gonna click one at random just to see the results and be able to. They probably want me to do it to look at the comments. It's a 38-minute ago poll. Boom. All right, where are we at here? What the fuck? Okay, I guess I gotta zoom out here. What's that shit? Am I the only person that did it? Oh wow. Okay. Well, that sucks. Well, let's read some comments. Um, can I? Yeah. Come on over here, real quick, real quick. Yeah, people with faces and shit gonna be on here. I don't care. A 6-year-old child is not able to understand such biological matters. They feel and learn from their surroundings, and you help him to interrupt them. This is child abuse. 6-year-olds are not thinking about how to know about genders. Can I scoot this over? Thinking about knowing about gender. Somewhere an adult put things in in a child's head. Uh-oh, I screwed up somewhere. Okay, yeah, let me bring it back up real quick because that seemed like it was gonna be juicy. That seemed like it was gonna be juicy. All the way at the bottom, see all 345 comments. All right, can I? There we go. Now it's cooperative. I gotta do it like that. There we go. Okay, let's get it back up. All right, so I got some new comments. The mom's partner is a woman. Maybe it's the home environment that is driving this. How many? Les Garber. How many times must it be resaid? K's don't have the wherewithal to know what they are saying. I guess K's is kids, and they glum on to what they are told about themselves by grown-ups and other K's. The parents are abusing these K's. Yeah, so I'm assuming K's is kids. Um, Classic example of grooming, shame, a failure of a parent. It's stupid. If God wanted us to be that way, it would be in His Word. We'll read a few more. Lorraine Clark. What happened to free to be me and letting children ignore artificial gender roles? This parent has completely succumbed to sex role stereotypes and she's forcing them on her kid just like some kind of backwards Taliban. Wow. The best teachers and parents are the ones who show you where to look but don't tell you what to see. I agree with that. And 6-year-olds haven't gone through puberty and have no idea about what they are. It's insanity to say otherwise. So we can see the consensus in the fucking comments. Nah, to clap back at this ridiculous fucking stupid shit. Like I played ball, so now it's time to take the ball. Like it's my turn. I scored. We playing winners. Time to take the ball out. So even as a child, even as a toddler, my child was different. So you oftentimes hear this goofy ass fucking narrative that when I got them the clothes, I didn't understand why, but they preferred wearing clothes from the dress up bin. I laughed this off as peculiar, not understanding what they were trying to tell me. You often hear that narrative where it's like, well, if they start dressing up, wearing dresses and shit, then that's them subliminally saying, "Oh, I want to be a girl because I wear these clothes." And it's like then when my children were 6 and 7, I started dating someone who was non-binary and used they/them pronouns. And this was my first introduction to this, as well as my children's partner patiently explained the concept to my children, saying they were neither a girl nor a boy, but somewhere in between and a little of both. Now, if somebody ever said that shit to my children, if somebody was to ever say that with the intent of them soaking up that information and you to any measure, you have to leave. You got to go. We will never speak again. Do not ever, like, you do not have permission to teach my children anything that I don't. If I wanted to teach my children that you could drink concrete through a straw, if I wanted to teach my kids that they're my kids, I will teach them what I want. You do not, just because you're a friend of me or we tight or whatever, does not mean you can put messages in my kids' heads. You have lost your fucking mind, like entirely. The fuck? You know? So as soon as somebody would be coming around talking about it's a gender and it's a spectrum, talking that shit to my kids like in front of me, like that's audacious. Like how dare you? The fuck is you going through talking this shit to my kids? You want your ass beat? Like seriously, you can't fucking do that. Talking about even as a toddler, my child was different. They didn't want to wear the what the fuck? You do not give children them kind of options. That's how you breed entitled, whiny little bastards who think the world revolves around them. And these are the type of people that we tend to fucking hate. They're annoying and incessant and interminable. They're loud and oftentimes successful in their manipulative tactics to do stupid shit. Like go to school dressed up as a cat or be walking around the house prancing with their hands on their hips and shit, talking about I'm a girl. And then if a dad see that and he fucking snatch the kid up and try to discipline that shit out of him, then he's like wrong for that because they're just being who they are. Who they are. That's who they are. Motherfucker, you don't know who you are at that age. You can't understand the concept of who you are. It take a lot more discovery than putting on a fucking dress, bro. Talking about who they were. And then even through this shit, they was using the pronouns like, where was this shit? Oh shit. Scroll back up. Find this goofy shit. They was using where was it at? All the times that they put on the princess dresses. Now they tried to take clothes from their sister. I remember the Halloween, they were 3 years old and wanted nothing more to be a pink and a purple dragonfly. But they know who they were and have for quite some time. They weren't a boy or a girl, but they've been trying to tell me. They just hadn't had the language for it. Like the pronoun use is heavy. It was one sentence I started laughing because they said that shit so much. Where was it? Yep, here we go. I think it's right here. I've learned from them that you must stay true to who you are, even in the face of adverse adversaries or those who question you. I learned from my child's strength. It was 10 years ago, my child, famous, blah, blah, stood at the top of the stairs, how fabulous they were. They've not wavered in who they are since the day they proclaimed that they were a gender bender. Despite children teasing them, family not accepting their identity or pronouns, and all the obstacles of being a non binary in a very binary culture, they have remained true to themselves. They are a senior in high school now, and they've given up the leotard dress for a daily outfit of black joggers and some sort of cat t shirt. So, what, they wearing the same clothes every day? That's nasty as fuck. You're not in, like, you just let them do whatever they want. They want to wear this, or do they have like 7 different pairs of black pants and black hat t-shirts, and they just wash them and just cycle through them? How do you know which ones are dirty and which ones are clean? Why do you want to wear the same thing every day? The fuck is wrong with you? Like, you can't say nothing about this shit because you get labeled as some type of horrible person forever wanting to introduce some type of structure or culture or rules, like a controlled environment, not some willy nilly ass shit where you just wake up and he eats what he want to eat because he knows who he is better than I do. I can only know things that are me. Fucking imbeciles. This shit is imbecilism. That's what this is. What else is on here? Oh yeah, they're still just as fabulous. That's it. Thank God, man. Yeah, this is that shit where they just be taking little boys and they raise them as girls. And then by the time they get into the world and realize how fucked up you've made them, they want to kill themselves. But yet they say it requires letting them go into women's bathrooms and fucking, hand out tampons or appropriate femininity and womanhood. Like they can do all that shit. That's cool. It's not mental health. That's just them being themselves. I have a non-binary child. You stupid as fuck. This doesn't make any sense. You've poisoned that child, and this just needs to stop. It needs to stop, and that's my clapback. You guys are certifiably fucking insane, and I hope that you never, ever are in care of children ever again for the sake of. All right, what's next? What we got here? Courtesy of the Western Journal. Uh, Well-funded Democrat trans candidate for open House seat resoundingly rejected by Alabama voters. We're reading this together. I have not really looked into this at all, so I don't know if this is the picture of the person. Let's come down here and read the caption. At David Hogg 111 on X. Okay, so I don't. I'm assuming that's the person right there. Okay. Alabama Democrats rejected a transgender candidate for an open state house seat on Tuesday. Travis Hendricks, 40, a Birmingham police sergeant, defeated transgender candidate Sylvia Swain in a state house district 55 runoff contest. With 30 of 31 precincts counted, Hendricks had 2,367 votes, amounting to 65.12% of the vote, according to the Birmingham Times. Swain totaled 1,268 votes, which came to 34.88%. The key was working hard. I didn't think that it would be this large a margin of victory, but one thing I did know was as long as I continued to work hard, everything else would just work out. We knocked on a lot of doors, Hendricks said. Travis Hendricks, a 40-year-old Birmingham police officer, is heading to the Alabama State House after winning a runoff election in Jefferson County on Tuesday. Hendricks, a Democrat, prevailed against Democrat Sylvia Swain to represent House District 55. There is no Republican candidate in the race, which means Hendricks is all but assured of winning in the January election for the seat, which became open when former state representative Fred Plump resigned after pleading guilty to federal corruption charges. Swain had received intense media coverage because he was the first transgender candidate in the state. Well, I'm sure about that. Like they love to talk about that kind of shit, but I just don't see the need for it. It seems like the people of Alabama have got their heads on straight. Um, this has already gone like pretty far. If you realize the the fuel propagating every narrative of these people, this LGBTQ community is victimhood. Like they are victims. They are always under some kind of threat, under some kind of siege. Like it's never just like it's always trans people dying. Everyone else is always genocidal, you know, and that's pretty much the only reason that this person was able to run in the first place because you're not allowed to oppose. If you oppose them, like I said, you gonna get hit with them rhetoric bombs. Like they just gonna just start hitting you with oh you transphobic, your ass is glycemic, your ass is aerodynamic and fucking tube sectional. Like they're just gonna start hitting you with shit, and you're gonna be all that shit because they said you is. Like you're gonna be a bigot, you're gonna be racist, you're gonna be ageist, you're gonna be ableist, you're gonna be discriminatory, you're gonna be everything. You're gonna like the Nazis, you're gonna have Hitler posters on your fucking wall. You didn't share alt right or far right fascist memes and ideas and opinions and shit. Like you've done it all. Let them tell it. You know. So if it wasn't for that type of political power that this community has, this would never have happened. And everybody's trying to be the first transgender, something like it's a good thing that this was struck down because we just don't need this is just idiocy, nonsense, it's gobbledygook, and we just don't need it right now. Like it's shit, man. This ain't even on the radar for real. Like honestly, I don't want to consider myself the trans candidate. Now, what the fuck does that mean? You don't want to consider yourself the trans candidate, but that's what you are, right? Swain had told AI.com during the campaign, but I do recognize the historical element of my campaign and my candidacy. It certainly informs my perspective. It's not something I'm afraid to talk about. It's who I am. So I'm confused as to why you don't want to consider yourself a trans candidate. What's so goddamn historical about it? Like everybody's always trying to be the first to do something in this. I'm the first transgender to walk up a flight of stairs while wearing 7-inch heels. I'm the first transgender who used a little bit of lipstick instead of mascara because I didn't know I ran out of my roommate used it while I was gone. I'm the first transgender to wear a tube top with black socks. Like the fuck cares? It's not something you're afraid to talk about. Like, why would you have to be afraid to talk about it? You can say literally almost whatever you want to. If you look at some of the recent people who've been, get taking some heat for saying radical things. I don't know about fired, but they take some heat. There are some guidelines to what you can say, whether you LGBTQ or not. But you can be a whole nigga, a whole man, I'm proof of that. You can go a whole nigga and just be like lauded for it. You can. So it's not something you're afraid to talk about. Where's the fear? Doesn't make sense. I think young people are excited there's someone their age who shares their values is running for state office in Alabama, he said. Swain received, oh, so it's a he. Okay, all right, okay. All right, okay. Swain received, Swanye, I was calling him Swain, my bad. Swanye received significant campaign cash from out of state, according to AI.com. My apologies. What's your first name? I don't even forgettable as. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Sylvia Soignier. Oh, let's see, it do say Swain up there. Sylvia Swain. Okay. Swain again. Swain. And it's, okay, so that's a typo. Okay. See, I thought I fucked up. This shit say Soignier. I'm over here tripping. Like I'm telling you, man, I see so many fucking grammatical errors. Like there is nobody proofreading at half of these fucking news outlets, bro. Like it's sad. The grammatical and spelling errors that it's just littered. Like they just type this shit up. The rough draft is the final draft. Like they probably don't even have rough drafts. They don't like edit or revise speech. Like it's just you just shoot that shit out. Soignier. Come on, man. Pay attention. Sheesh. Sylvia Swain is running for Alabama State House HD 55. She's the first openly transgender person to ever run for the state legislature in Alabama. She has a special election coming up in just a few days. Swain's campaign netted $209,352 in campaign donations, including $124,325 from Leaders We Deserve, a Washington group co-founded by anti-gun advocate David Hogg. Hendricks, on the other hand, received $81,837.29 from a variety of donors. Swain's status as a transgender individual emerged in the campaign when a flyer was distributed in the district, according to the Alabama Reflector. The flyer, which the Hendricks campaign said it did not distribute, said Swain was born to be a white male and lives as a white woman transgender. Swain was making his first bid for office and beat out 6 local Democratic leaders to reach the runoff that he lost to Hendricks, according to 1819 News. According to AI.com, Swain said Alabama voters will see more transgender candidates in the future. I might be the first transgender woman to run in the state of Alabama, but I'll be damned if I'm the last, he said. People want to see change. People want to see something different. What I want to see, that's the end of the article. What I want to see is, so I might be the first transgender woman to run in the state of Alabama, but I'll be damned if I'm the last, he said. I'll be damned if I'm the last, he said. It says it right here. I might be the first transgender woman to run in the state of Alabama, but I'll be damned. DAMNED. If I'm the last, he said. So if this is a transgender woman, let's go over. If this is the first transgender woman, why are they referring to them as a he? Clearly says he said. So is that misgendering? Did who is this? Is this who? Let me scroll up. Who is this? Is it the Western Journal? Yeah. So is the Western Journal guilty of misgendering? Did they just misgender a potential House candidate in Alabama? How dare you? How you you can't do that? Like who I'm going to write out. No, I'm gonna find like somebody at Glad or something, and I'm gonna send them this article. Who wrote it? Who's the person that Jack Davis? Okay, so we got Jack Davis is the person who wrote this shit. So I'm gonna get in touch with Glad after this segment is done. After I'm like waiting in in a volcanic pool of fucking molten lava. While I'm doing that, I'm gonna contact Glad and I'm gonna send them a screenshot of this horrible, disrespectful, completely reprehensible misgendering of this stunning and brave, beautiful, wonderful transgender candidate. This is a beautiful transgender woman right here. Like let's take a look here. Let's get a good zoom. I'm assuming this is who it is. Like look. Whoa! Yeah. But yeah, stunning and brave. YouTube trust and safety. Don't demonetize me. I haven't made any money yet. But yeah, look at that. Like that's not a he, okay? That's not a he. That is a she. How dare you misgender? You can't. Yeah, man. Whatever. But yeah, y'all did misgender them, and y'all should have y'all lives ruined for it. Also, on a serious note, because that's that's the rules you guys made. Like, you know, that's the rules you guys made. Like, I've seen videos of people getting shouted down in public for refusing to comply with the gender, and they said he said multiple times in this article referencing this person here. So it's like, if that's not misgendering, I don't know what is. But Jack Davis, you need to issue an apology. You need to issue a very public apology, and you need to do it now. Otherwise, welcome to the right. We're glad to have you. But if you apologize, and like, then you know, shame on you. You shouldn't have done it in the first place to need to apologize. You know, it's clearly an act of evil and pure animus and disrespect. Like, it's just a raw bag of loathing. You know, I don't even think I can continue on with this show. Like, I might have to cut this episode short because I just can't believe what I'm. That's how sarcastically devastated I am by this. Like, I think I might just cut it off here and never do this shit ever again, bro. Just misgendered the motherfucking. Anyways, man, it's gonna be more transgender candidates in the future. So like, we ain't got nothing to worry about. There's gonna be plenty more people for the Western Journal to misgender. There's gonna be plenty more nonsense to ruin the credibility and integrity of our, leadership system, our government, our local and state governments, and all that shit. We got, you know, plenty more time to inject nonsense into it and just make it a laughing stock, not really something that should be revered and, sacred and something that the country was founded on and contributed to what makes it great today. So, good job, us. Okay, let's keep this thing moving, baby. We got, courtesy of Fox Business, we got a viral video of a girl complaining about the 9 to 5 grind. Because this is a completely original gripe. I think I can count on one hand how many people I've heard complain about the 9 to 5 grind. So this is a completely original issue in life today, and this girl's unique and refreshing perspective on that made her go viral on TikTok. And Fox Business decided to pick it up, courtesy of Making Money with Charles Payne. So let's look at this shit here. Let's do that. Hang on. Hang on. Hold your horses. Why did it mute again? I just unmuted it and it did that to me. Don't fucking do that to me.
I don't have time to do anything. I want to shower, eat my dinner, and go to sleep. I don't have time or energy to cook my dinner either. Like, I don't have energy to work out. Like, that's out the window. Like, I'm so upset. Oh my God. Nothing to do with my job at all, but just like the 9 to 5 schedule in general is crazy.
Well, that young lady on TikTok getting a whole lot of attention. Of course, you can see the anxiety that she has about working 9 to 5, and people are sort of up in arms about it on both sides. I want to bring the Washington Examiner op-ed editor, IWF senior fellow, Kaylee McGee-White. So Kaylee, a lot of folks have tweeted in on the show. One from Judge 64 says the 9 to 5 TikTok girl is a microcosm of today's society. I worked 3 jobs to pay off my student loans. Now my taxes are used to pay them off. I work 60 plus hours a week. Now people want to work 4 days and get paid for 5. Few want to work hard and earn it. What do you think?
Yeah, and Gen Z discovering the real world, it never gets old. And I say this as someone who is Gen Z, and they're shocked at the idea that you actually have to work a full-time job in order to make money. And that is the thing. And I sympathize to a certain extent. No one likes working long hours. Everyone wants more flexibility. But the single best way to get more flexibility is, especially when you're early on in your career, and I assume that she's probably only a couple years younger than I am, so this is her first, maybe her second job.
Right.
The best way is to buckle down, work hard, and achieve what you want. Success isn't handed to you. And yet, that's exactly what my generation assumes.
Is that, what's the genesis of that, though? The participation trophy, you know, throwing grades out the window? I mean, where did this come from? Because it's a very powerful force.
I think it's certainly those things. And I also think that the pandemic had a distinct effect on Gen Z. I call them the COVID kids, right? Where the last couple of years of either high school or even college was all spent remote. And so this has been especially impacted offices where kids who are graduating from colleges just expect that they're going to be handed remote jobs because that's what they got used to for 2 to 3 years.
Right. You know, it's interesting. A couple of weeks ago, we did this show. We showed where, like, over 100 years ago, women were 80% of them in the workplace, but they were carrying bells, they were baling hay, they were milking cows. I mean, it's like now a large portion are in the workforce, but they're carrying laptops. They're making up the corporate ladder, and you know, it's how do we do a course correction here, because you got to put some skin in the game. There's no other way around it, but the rewards are phenomenal.
Absolutely. And developing a work ethic is instrumental to being successful later on in life. And yet, again, everything from government policy to the way that administrators are teaching kids is doing the exact opposite. Take, for example, student loan debt forgiveness. We're teaching kids that they don't have to work hard to pay off their student loans and that other people will do it for them.
Right.
So this is coming from the highest levels of government.
A minute ago, I want to switch gears because this war, this attack on Israel has brought out some things in this country I don't know if people knew, you know, how young people are, in some cases, defending Hamas and things like that. Are you shocked at this? And it's all over this country.
You know, I'm not. And I say that because we've seen over the past several years on college campuses an increase of violence towards people that students disagree with. There was a recent poll that found that 25% of college students think that it is acceptable to use violence to shut down speech with which they disagree. But the endorsement of terrorism is also emblematic of what happens when you teach an entire generation to hate the West and its values. And that's what we're seeing on our screens right now.
It's scary. It's really, again, it gets back to not understanding history, but it's dangerous because this is the future.
It is.
Great stuff, Kayla. You got a lot of work to do with your peers.
Yes.
We appreciate it.
Hell yeah, you do. Got a lot of work to do. Shit. So yeah, we got that. Yeah, as far as her whining and shit, I'll just say how my work week goes. This past week I worked 6 days. I'm scheduled 40 hours a week. I worked 4 10-hour days. I picked up an 11-hour shift and another 6-hour shift on top of that. So, you know, I might have left early for a total of maybe 4 or 5 of those hours. So I worked about 50. I've been working about 50 hours a week, 47 to 50 hours a week. So my day is on Sunday. I wake up at 5:30, I take a shower, I get dressed, I listen to some music, or I drink a cup of coffee, listen to some music, warm up, get energized, maybe make some breakfast. I write out some affirmations, smoke a blunt if I got one, and by 6:30, I'm out the door. 6:25, I'm out the door at the bus stop by 6:30, picked up on the bus by 6:37, at work. Or off the bus and at work by between 6:50 and 6:55. Between 7 o'clock and 7:15, I do a full body stretch from my toes to my knees to my lower back to my arms to my neck to my mind. Breathe and relax everything. Smoke again, maybe sometimes. By 7:25, I'm clocked in, and by 7:30, I'm working on my feet, walking. So I work from 7:30 to about 5:30 to 6 p.m. So that's Sunday through Wednesday. And I've been picking up shifts. I picked up 2 shifts last week. So average about 5 days, 15 hours a day. So I get out of work at 6, let's just say 6, get home by like, or I stop at the grocery store, pick up something to eat for dinner, get home at like 7, get dinner started, roll a blunt while dinner's going. So about like 7:30, 7:45ish, I eat from like 8 to 10. That's my time to do this. That's my time to, catch up on anything I missed throughout the week or whatever. I've already got my clothes laid out for the week. Like I got to go actually put them in the dryer in a minute. But like all my outfits, from the socks to the underclothes, everything, all planned out in advance. That's there. So I spend my time like looking up stuff, researching, editing, doing all that. No later than 10:30 am I in the bed. And then I wake up the next morning at 5:30 and do it again. And then wake up the next morning at 5:30 and do it again. Wake up the next morning at 5:30, do it again. And Thursday and Friday is kind of flex days. So yeah, not a lot of time in there. That's how it is. If you're gonna work the 9 to 5, that's how it is. And you got a lot of motherfuckers. It's like these what you call them, Gen Zs or whatever the fuck. These youngsters, these just 10 years or so younger than me. These motherfuckers, they want to abolish the 9 to 5. They want like 3.5 day work day, like the 4.5 hour work. I mean, the 4.5 day work week. I could get behind, because that's pretty much an extension of what I'm doing. I'm working 4 days, but you add 2 hours onto every day. So it's like two times 4 is 8, and that cancels out a whole day of the week. So that works. That 4.5 day is like the most I would cut it. Anything less than that is just nonsense. It's nonsense. It's laziness. It's entitlement. They want to abolish 9 to 5. Okay, let's abolish it. Then what? What do you put in place of that? These motherfuckers want to love to run around and talk about what the fuck we need to get rid of, what we need to stop doing, who's wrong for this, who's wrong. Okay, what are you gonna put in place of it? This happens in relationships a lot too. Like, motherfuckers love to point the finger. They want to tell you everything you did, everything you said, everywhere you went, everything you touched, everything you bought, everything you saw. But it's like, okay, so what do we do to fix it? I'm happy to see that your ass is capable of identifying problems, but are you capable of solving them? What's the point of running around bitching all the fucking time about some shit you ain't gonna do nothing about? Who gives a goddamn? Shut up. Please, shut the hell up. If you're not gonna do shit about it. We all can identify problems. We know what the fuck happens around us in our whereabouts that make us want to not do things, not be engaged, not be around it. Like, throw that shit off to the side. We get that. Most people are pretty good at identifying problems. It's a real distinct human ability, because you need to be able to identify problems in order to find the solutions that align with your quality of life. That's what you want, right? You don't want to be stumped and unable to achieve shit all the fucking time. That'd be absurd. So that's why I'm at that age, and I got the work ethic now. Like, I'm actually starting to fall in love with my routine. I love my routines. I feel great. I have so much more energy. I'm so much more focused. When my room starts getting messy and things start, I start getting a little too comfortable, those all serve as reminders. I need to like get back to it. Don't stay humble. Don't become not humble yet. Like, still be humble now. Be grateful. And stay attached to these habits, because it feels great. It feels good. It feels good for me to go to work. It feels good for me to know that my job is making a difference. It's impacting people, that could be all over the place. I never know how many. If that's in the way I see it, I've helped tens of thousands of people already where I work. I like what I do, you know, and it's easy over time to take shit like that for granted. Like, I don't want to become a person that takes shit like that for granted, because it's an amazing thing. Like, part of my routine, like when I walk through the turnstile to get in work, I take a knee, I point up at the sky, and I'm gratitude. Like, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to still be able to walk into this bitch. I'm happy to still be here. I'm happy to have got here on time. I'm happy my attendance. I've only missed one day, and that was because they sent a text message out at night and I misunderstood it. My attendance is like 98%. I show up, I work, you know, and it feel good. Like it feels good to do work. I don't understand how a motherfucker can sit around ass scratching, eating Cheetos, and binging boring ass Netflix TV show. TV is fucking boring, man. If it's not something educating you or giving you like a docuseries or something like that, that shit's boring, man. As fuck. Fucking sit around watching movies all the 17 goddamn Harry Potter movies back to back. Like, get the fuck out of here, man. You can go start a garden, go learn to paint or play a guitar, nigga. Like, do some push-ups, bro. Fucking sitting around here looking to CGI all goddamn day. Fuck's the matter with you, dog? Shit's goofy, man. This whole attitude that these Gen Zers got is a byproduct of just convenience and technological advancements and things like the way just things work in life, man. Like screens have this hypnotic kind of control over us sometimes where like we just it is literally the perfect distraction because it's so beneficial. But the extension of them benefits like lend itself to being distracting. Like it's like a drug almost. Like this, the availability and convenience of media is in essence a drug. Like if you walk out the house without your phone, like you feel like withdrawal. Like how dare you be out in public without your phone? You be like, what the fuck? Like oh my god, like this, like whoa, it don't feel good at all to be out in public without your phone. And even I feel like that. Like it's just, if my phone is off, I'm just like I'm out here naked. Like I might well be out here with no pants on, and a super tiny ass t-shirt with like an anime backpack or some shit like that, man. I might well just be standing out there with a clown mask on. But they'll get there. You just got to go through some hard times. Like once you go through hard times and you be able to look back and dust your shoulders off, and be like, oh, okay, I made it through this shit. Then you know what it takes. You like, I'm not trying to deal with that shit all the time. I'm not trying to be having these problems all the time, and that's what whip your ass into shape. So until you, just like with all drugs, until you really get tired of doing that drug, you ain't gonna stop. You got to get tired of it because if it's too. Otherwise, it wins on the benefits to cost ratio. It wins. You have to be tired of it to where like yeah, it's benefits, but like the cost, like it's just not. I'm not. I have to put. I've cut off all the other things I can cut off, and like this is what's left. So, little Gen Z bitch, you need to grow up. Who gives a damn about your 9 to 5 struggles? Like that's what my day looks like every goddamn day, and I couldn't be happy. So maybe you ought to take a page out of my book. Do us all a favor and shut the hell up. No one cares about your problems. You don't care about mine. Alrighty, guys, grab your popcorn. This is gonna take a while. So, got an article here, courtesy of the Daily Wire. It's say it's relevant to a moderately big deal of a topic. So, what I got for you here, this clip says, well, this article reads: Derek Chauvin attorney talks U.S. Supreme Court appeal. Every juror had a stake in the outcome of the trial. No juror would want to see their communities burned again in riots. All right, so pretty sure we're all familiar with that face. That man is Derek Chauvin. And Derek Chauvin is the man who was accused of kneeling on George Floyd's neck for 8 minutes and 40 something seconds and eventually killing him. He lost in the court of public opinion, he lost in the court of law, and his life was ultimately ruined. And a lot of a lot of evidence and details have emerged since George Floyd died in 2020 that have shed new light on this whole situation, on the state of Mr. Derek Chauvin. So if we go on and read this clip here, let's see what we got. Legal representation for Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin has filed a petition asking the U.S. Supreme Court to hear an appeal to the contentious and highly publicized case concerning the death of George Floyd. Attorney William Moorman, doing an interview with the Daily Wire, said his client was denied the right to a fair trial and emphasized how the jury was biased from the outset, especially one specific juror. Chauvin was sentenced in 2021 to over 20 years behind bars after a jury found him guilty of second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter in Floyd's death. Videos of the arrest and Floyd's detainment on the ground by Chauvin went viral in 2020, sparking protests and riots across the U.S. and even Europe. Holding the trial in Minneapolis, where the incident occurred, effectively guaranteed Chauvin an unfair trial, Mormon said. And I mean, I would agree with that. I think that's pretty much the case. A lot of times you have a high profile case, you generally don't have the trial where the case happened for that reason. Like it's pretty hard to get to be treated impartially when the people who are deciding your fate are directly linked to the community in which the shit happened. You know, generally that trial would happen somewhere else. But of course not for Derek Chauvin, because he's a white cop who put his knee on a guy's neck and some chick recorded it on her phone, and so much for that shit. But to continue reading here. Under the Sixth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, every criminal defendant is guaranteed a right to a fair trial. And part of that fair trial right is to not be tried in a location where the jurors have either been exposed to extensive pretrial publicity or there has been such community outrage and the like that the jurors, before they were even impaneled before the trial, would have concluded the defendants guilty or would have been pressured into rendering a guilty verdict. Shit. All that shit popping up. But yeah. Let's read that again. Because, I mean, whether you like Derek Chauvin or not, this definitely happened to him. And part of that fair trial right is to not be tried in a location where the jurors have either been exposed to extensive pretrial publicity or there has been such community outrage and the like that the jurors, before they were even impaneled before the trial, would have concluded the defendants guilty or would have been pressured into rendering a guilty verdict. When that happens, the Supreme Court precedents require that the case be moved to another location or venue, as the law puts it. However, that's not what happened with Chauvin's case. During the questioning, I would say that the vast majority, not only the vast majority, probably 75 to 80% of the jurors expressed concerns for their own personal safety as a result of being impaneled on the jury. Virtually every juror had obviously heard about the case, knew about the riots, and had seen the videos that were taken when George Floyd was arrested. Virtually all the jurors have seen that. So it's difficult in a case like that to impanel the jury where the jurors have informed conclusions before the trial even starts, which I would say is a pretty damn fair argument. Moorman said their primary argument is that due to the riots that took place in Minneapolis, every juror who was impaneled had a stake in the outcome of the trial because no juror will want to see their communities burned again in riots. Minneapolis suffered $500 million in damage, and all the jurors, or virtually all the jurors during jury questioning, expressed concerns about another riot breaking out. Moorman also noted outside factors before and during the trial that could have prejudiced jury members who were not sequestered in the sense most Americans might expect. Jurors, for example, went home each night and then met at an undisclosed location in the morning and were brought into the courthouse with heavy security. The attorney said that Minneapolis announced a $27 million settlement with George Floyd's estate in the middle of the trial, and noted rather notorious comments from Democratic Representative Democratic Representative Maxine Waters. The Democrat traveled to Minneapolis and told BLM protesters that if there is no guilty verdict, they should, quote, stay on the street, get more active, and get more confrontational, which I just saw. I think I still got that video queued up. So, yeah, definitely heard that. Further, the National Guard was deployed by Governor Tim Walz just before the trial. Moorman argues this was done to prepare for another riot in case Chauvin were to be acquitted. potentially sending another clear message to the jury that they better convict. The attorney also made the argument of potential juror misconduct regarding a specific juror, Juror 52. Almost immediately after trial, Juror 52 was on a radio show being interviewed about his experience as a juror. He expressed happiness at being on the juror panel, then said he was really happy with the messages sent to the Minneapolis Police Department because during his life, he had had 50 encounters with the Minneapolis Police Department, all of them negative. And in one of them, he had a gun pulled on him. Now, again, he filled out a juror questionnaire prior to trial saying, to the best of my recollection, he was at least neutral on the Minneapolis Police Department. And then the other thing that's even more disturbing is that video evidence was found on the internet of Jury 52 participated in a Get Off Our Necks BLM rally in Washington, D.C. in August of 2020. So again, he answered questions prior to trial saying he had not been at any protest. Now listen to that shit. So you got a juror on the trial who lied and said he was impartial. All these jurors get processed, and you got preemptive, what's it called? I think it's called a peremptory exclusion or something like that. And as you're going down the list of jurors, both the prosecution and the defense get like 11 peremptory exclusions to strike off jurors that they just don't want. Like anybody that's picked, you could just kick them out. Like boom, no, skip next. I want the next one. Fuck that. This is a bad one. We just strike them out, no questions asked, and that's that. That's how juries work. I read that in The Runaway Jury, which is a John Grisham novel, and I believe it's fact. So if I'm wrong, blame John Grisham. Anyway, they ask you all kind of pretrial questions to try to narrow down and pick the most impartial jury. And of course, both the prosecution and the defense are trying to pick a jury that they want. They want a jury, the prosecution wants a jury that's going to convict. The defense wants a jury that's going to quit. So he lied about this. I'm pretty sure this is criminal. I'm pretty sure you cannot go to jury duty. That's under oath. You can't go in there and lie about this shit. So the evidence is piling up. That whole case was a sham. A complete fucking sham. From the get-go, from the fucking jury selection. Derek Chauvin never had a chance. But we're gonna talk a lot about this shit. This is gonna be a long segment, so we get back to this. Mormon said this case should be taken up by the U.S. Supreme Court, especially because of what he sees as the nationwide implications of the trial's outcome. All over the country, police departments in the inner cities are having difficulty hiring police officers, and there's a debate out there as to why that's happening. But two of the primary reasons that are being articulated as to why it's happening is, number one, as a result of the trials up here in Minneapolis, and particularly Mr. Chauvin's case. If a police officer gets caught up in an ambiguous situation with a suspect, trying to arrest a suspect who's resisting arrest, and something happens where the suspect dies, police officers are concerned that they're not going to be charged with second-degree murder and looking at a 20 to 40-year sentence for that, which is essentially a life sentence. Police officers are extremely concerned about that, and that's why you've had numerous officers around the country who have retired, and why inner-city police departments are having trouble hiring new officers. The U.S. Supreme Court only hears about 100 appeals of the 7,000 or so cases it's asked to review annually. But if the court agrees to review the case and agrees Chauvin did not get a fair trial, the former officer would get a new trial. There is also a federal civil rights conviction against Chauvin, for which he is serving over 20 years concurrently with this state sentence. Challenging this sentence will be a separate legal action following a potential acquittal from a new trial. All right, so there's that. So Derek Chauvin was fucked from Jump Street, from that cell phone footage that they got of his ass. Even if I'm pretty sure, I think I got it up here. If you go to Google and you type in George Floyd footage or something to that effect, let me just type in. I got it right here. Pull it up. I'm gonna type in Derek Chauvin. Just type in Derek Chauvin. Here are the search results that come up for him. That knee, this one image right here, that knee, and his mugshot. Now, I regret to say that when this happened, I was woke. So I was happy to hear that he had got arrested. I feel like he got what he deserved. But at this point, I recant that shit completely. I hope he gets a retrial, because he certainly deserves one. Because this image here is the one you routinely see. Yeah, we're going to blow that up. This is the image you see here of Derek Chauvin with his hand on his thigh and the knee on the neck, allegedly. They said his knee was on the neck the entire time. So now let's shift away from this. I've got something from the CBC. That was it, CBC, yeah. So I got something from CBC here. Body camera footage gives fuller picture of George Floyd's killing. We're gonna watch this video and just look at how George Floyd is described in this video right here. Let's play it.
It's a personal issue for me because the people they're killing look like me, and it could happen to me any day. It's scary that people have to be afraid for their lives.
George Floyd's killing by Minneapolis police continues to reverberate across the United States and around the world. We have seen protest, debate about the role of police, and growing recognition of systemic anti-black racism. Now, by order of a Minneapolis judge, police body cam footage of Floyd's tragic final moments is now out there for the world to see, as are the actions of the 4 officers charged in his death. Their first trial expected to begin this coming March. Now, the footage gives us a fuller picture of what happened on May 25th in Minneapolis when police first approached Floyd. Stephen D'Souza takes us through it, and we need to warn you, the language is graphic and the video incredibly difficult to watch.
Let me see your hands.
From the moment Officer Thomas Lane approached George Floyd to when he draws his gun, less than 15 seconds.
Both hands. Do nothing. Put your fucking hands up right now.
The 2 new videos are half an hour each. They show Floyd's difficult final moments from the perspective of Officer Lane and Officer Alexander.
Pause. Okay, so we see that there. Put your hands on the wheel. I ain't do nothing, officer. I ain't do nothing. I ain't do nothing. All that back talking and shit. Just put your hands on the wheel, bro. Like, if you put your hands on the wheel and you still get a gun drawn on you, maybe maybe he shouldn't have drawn the gun so fast, but you walking up on a car, what officers are going to say is, I don't know what's in that fucking car. I don't know if he's got a weapon, so I'm protecting myself. You're not going to get away from that. So put your hands on the fucking wheel. Shut up. All that talking, all that shit. Like, they're here to investigate. If you haven't done anything wrong, let them investigate.
Kung. Both are charged with aiding and abetting second-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter. The footage fills in the gaps left by bystander and security cameras. It shows Floyd's shaken and emotional reaction to being approached.
Shaken and emotional.
Dang, man. Man, I got shot the same way as officers before.
It also captures the extent of the struggle, just over 3 minutes, as officers try to get Floyd into their vehicle.
All these cuts.
They then put him on the ground.
Which is what he asked for. He asked to be put on the ground. You see how they cut that out? They cut that out. They just said, then he was put on the ground, per his request. But they don't show you that.
You're doing fine. You're talking fine.
The video shows Officer Derek Chauvin kneeling on Floyd for almost 9.5 minutes, longer than the 8 minutes and 46 seconds that's become a rallying cry. A key question from the videos, did the use of force match the alleged crime, passing a counterfeit bill?
What's the rush? What's the
alleged crime? Is that what I just heard him say? Play that back.
Key question from the videos, did the use of force match the alleged crime, passing a counterfeit bill?
The alleged crime? They got him on video passing a counterfeit bill. What the fuck are you talking about? Alleged crime. Does the use of force match the alleged crime? First of all, the crime wasn't alleged. The nigga was trying to spend counterfeit money. That's not alleged. That's a fact. So what the fuck is he talking about? The alleged crime. And if you put it just to answer that stupid question, no, it doesn't match the alleged crime. But how did he end up in that situation? He resisted arrest. Also not an alleged crime. That's exactly what the fuck the footage shows. This shit is biased. This shit is not impartial. This shit's stupid. But let's finish watching it.
What's the rush? What's the rush? It's a counterfeit bill. Guy's obviously agitated. We always used to say, why interject a pistol into a problem that doesn't need it?
What do you mean, what's the rush? What do you mean, what's the rush? From the time he passed that bill and the time police showed up, it was 45 minutes. What do you mean, what's the rush? It's a counterfeit bill. Well, let's not forget that counterfeit bill was alleged, sir. We don't know that the bill was counterfeit according to this fucking, whatever this media outlet is. So, I mean, what do you mean, what's the rush? It's just a counterfeit bill. Dog had drugs in the fucking car. He broke like 3-4 laws in the span of an hour and got away with it for 45 of them. What the fuck are you talking about? Fucking drunkie.
But as is often argued in court, what's in the officer's mind is key.
You know, an officer's use of force depends on what they knew and what they personally perceived at the time. A lot of police officers believe that if someone is talking, then they can breathe.
The family says the video proves what they already know.
Which is generally true.
We just think the entire system was responsible for the death of George Floyd.
Okay, explain that. You think the entire system was responsible for the death of George Floyd? So you mean the entire criminal justice system killed George Floyd? That's what you're saying. But the entire Justice Department is responsible for the death of George Floyd. So it had nothing to do with him resisting arrest. It had nothing to do with the lethal dose of fentanyl and methamphetamine and the chewed up pills found in the back of the police car. It had nothing to do with that. It was just the fact that the justice system wanted George Floyd dead. Yeah. No, that makes complete sense. I honestly couldn't see it any other way. Like if George Floyd was to have died any other way, I would have not like no, that's that justice system catching up with him. Yup. That damn justice system just wouldn't leave him alone. Fuck out of here, bro. This is that woke bullshit, problematically Afrocentric narrative, that rhetoric that they run. The entire justice system is responsible for his death? That doesn't even fucking make sense. That's all race hustling rhetoric. And it's so irritating to hear, man. Look at this brainwashed chicken nugget head ass motherfucker. The entire justice system is responsible for the death of George Floyd. Cut the bullshit, homie. Shut that up.
But experts say people will see what they want in the video.
Oh, people will see what they want in the video. So they say shit like that. Oh, well, you'll see what you want because you're not seeing it how I see it. So you'll see what you want to see. Now, people ain't seeing what they want. They seeing what the fuck happened. It's about people, experts say people will see what they want. Also, because experts said it, that's what it is, huh? It's just people seeing what they want, not people seeing what happened. So what's the point of even analyzing this shit? What's the point of even showing it if people just gonna see what they want? I'll look at this and see SpongeBob. It's fucking stupid.
People's experience, their knowledge, their opinions, their biases always, lead them one way or the other when they're viewing the same type of an incident.
Ultimately, the experts say it will be up to a court to decide. Stephen D'Souza, CBC News, New York.
Okay. Well, there's that. So you hear the way they painted it. He was emotional when approached by the police, and he was emotional about being arrested. They put him on the ground, just leaving out, cutting that shit up heavily. They put so much spin on that shit. You could have dried a whole load of laundry with that shit. That's how much spin was on that shit, bro. It was a whole cycle for it. Here go another little tidbit. New video appears to show George Floyd on the ground with 3 officers. This is courtesy of CNBC. And one of them, CNBC. Let's pull this bullshit up. Look at this bullshit real quick. Oh, let's start that over. Shit, here we go. Well. lost it. We don't need to fucking see it anyway. It's just them just showing those fucking people on there. 3 officers on a black man, just new footage that we obviously didn't see, So what I really want to show you now, if you haven't seen it already, Candace Owens documentary, you need to see it. Get a Daily Wire membership. I watched Daily Wire on YouTube and on the website for a long time, longer than I care to admit, but I finally became a member. I am a Daily Wire's insider subscriber. And I think that this excerpt from Candace Owens, The Greatest Lie Ever Sold, tells you everything you need to know about Derek Chauvin. That's why I said this video is going to be long, because you need to see this. And this is why you should never watch mainstream media news outlets ever fucking again. So, courtesy of Daily Wire, Candace Owens, Greatest Lie Ever Sold. Let's watch.
Damn, man. Stay in the car. Let me see your other hand.
I'm sorry. Dr. Ron Martinelli, forensic criminologist and certified medical investigator and police practices expert. Let me just preface this. I have no dog in the fight here, all right? We classically get a lot of officer-involved shootings and in-custody deaths, but we take them from all sides. So my advocacy is for facts and evidence, not for people or entities. So if the officers are doing what they're supposed to be doing as they were trained to do it, I'm going to tell you. If they're not, I'm also going to tell you that.
What was your assessment of the police behavior in seeing the full video and seeing how things played out?
They make contact with Mr. Floyd, and that is totally appropriate because they're investigating a third person's report of criminality.
Not moving.
I'm not doing nothing.
Put your hands behind your back then.
I'm not gonna do nothing.
Stop resisting, man. Stand up.
Please, man. Man.
Stand up.
Why you doing me like this?
Stand up. Come on.
Man.
We're trying to get out of the street here so you don't get hit by a car.
So for the officers, what they have to do
Where
is
was
they
all that
have
footage?
to begin an investigation to ask him probative questions, seeking more evidence to determine whether a crime has occurred.
All right, what's your name?
George.
We're here because it sounds like you gave a fake bill to the individuals in there.
Yeah.
So once they put the handcuffs on Mr. Floyd should have known, albeit he's under the influence of drugs.
Ouchie,
What
man.
are you on something right now?
I'm not on nothing.
Because you acting real erratic.
Now, where the hell was all this footage? Like, look at it. They got my man sitting up against the wall and shit. They talking to him. They figured out. Where was all of this? I never seen any of this until I saw this documentary. Where was all of this shit, bro? For real.
He must obey the officer's directions, orders, and commands. He cannot resist arrest.
I hear you, but you are going to face this door right now. Listen up. Stop.
I don't do anything, man. Please don't do that.
Take a seat.
I'm going in, Mr. I'm going
No,
in.
you're not.
And so when Mr. Floyd gets in a car and he claims that he's claustrophobic.
Right, claustrophobic is exactly what he said.
I'm claustrophobic. I'm claustrophobic.
Stay on.
I'm just claustrophobic. That's it.
Now, what's the point of telling the police officer that you're claustrophobic as you're getting arrested? So what, they can go get like a giant bus to arrest you in so you have more space? So they can just go rent a gymnasium and put it on a flatbed and take it so you have all the space to get arrested? Arrest ain't designed to be comfortable, homeboy. You done fucked up. Arrest means your ass is coming with us. You're being detained. You're being taken. Your ass is being put somewhere. This motherfucker got all the treatment in the world. You talking about he's claustrophobic. Like, what difference does that make if you're getting arrested? All of this is resisting arrest. That's what that is. People say that type of shit to not get arrested. They don't want to get arrested. Motherfucker say, I'm allergic to handcuffs if it would get them out of an arrest. Like, the fuck?
I think if I was an officer, I'd be saying, wait a minute, you showed up in a car. You wouldn't get in a car if you thought you were claustrophobic. The officers placed him in a position that's referred to as the maximum restraint position. In other words, he's prone, stomach down, on the ground.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, good morning. We plan to prove to you, beyond a reasonable doubt, that Mr. Chauvin was anything other than innocent. On May 25th of 2020, Mr. Derek Chauvin used excessive and unreasonable force upon the body of Mr. George Floyd until the very breath, no, ladies and gentlemen, until the very life were squeezed out of him.
The whole time.
You would agree, Chief, that from the perspective of Miss Frazier's camera, it appears that Officer Chauvin's knee is on the neck of Mr. Floyd?
Yes.
Would you agree that from the perspective of Officer King's body camera, it appears that Officer Chauvin's knee was more on Mr. Floyd?
Take a look at it.
It appears that Officer Chauvin's knee is on the neck of Mr. Floyd.
Yes.
Would you agree that from the perspective of Officer King's body camera, it appears that Officer Chauvin's knee was more on Mr. Floyd's shoulder blade?
Yes.
They had to have the jury believe that it was a neck restraint, it was the knee on the neck, it was asphyxiation that killed George Floyd. However, there was a ton of evidence that George Floyd consumed a toxic, lethal cocktail of fentanyl and methamphetamine.
Did it appear that Mr. Floyd said, "I ate too many drugs"?
Yes, it did.
Let's put it in perspective. 3 grains of fentanyl on the head of a lead pencil, enough to kill you, enough to kill me. And so they had to continuously inculcate the public to believe that Derek Chauvin intentionally, premeditatedly murdered George Floyd, and drugs had absolutely nothing to do with it. As Lindsay and the toxicologist presented that awful testimony.
Do you recall describing the level of fentanyl as a fatal level of fentanyl?
I recall describing it in other circumstances. It would be a fatal level, yes. In other
circumstances? Like what? In other circumstances, this amount of fentanyl and methamphetamine would have been lethal? Like what? Like what other circumstance? Let's hear what he's got to say.
Circumstances. Had Mr. Floyd been home alone in his locked residence with no evidence of trauma, and the only autopsy finding was that fentanyl level, then yes, I would certify his death as due to fentanyl toxicity.
Oh, okay. So if he was at home alone, locked inside his residence. Yeah, okay. So if he was at home, locked inside his residence, prancing around naked, showing his ass out the front window to passerbys, yeah, then it would have been a fentanyl overdose. But since he wasn't at home, locked in his residence, he was outside of his home, unlocked. It couldn't have been drugs. Like, drugs can only kill you if you're in your home. You know that, right? We all know that. It's well understood, well documented that no human being in the history of the world has ever died from drugs outside of their home. It's a preposterous thought to even entertain. To think that a motherfucker gonna do drugs like outside of their home and live? What? That, bro, it's not even based in reality, man. Shit makes no sense. If you do drugs outside of the home, kiss your punk ass, worthless life goodbye, you piece of shit.
I know I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Before put on the ground, he couldn't breathe, so it really had nothing to do with the choke, in case you didn't put that part together.
I can't breathe.
Take a seat.
I can't breathe.
Here, come on out.
The autopsy is generally broken down by, number one, how the body is presented, and what his height and weight is, and then it goes through the neurological system, exterior trauma, interior trauma, but I go right to the cardiovascular system. And there I look at the heart weight. How much does the heart weigh? And then I take a look for key words. I compare the heart weight to the height and weight of the individual, to what the toxicology report says, and I look for certain words or evidence of something called cardiomegaly. Cardiomegaly means an enlarged heart. And if a person has cardiomegaly, their chances of sudden cardiac arrest rise by 150 times, not 150%, 150 times. That is significant. And then we have the whole issue of the police encounter and the basal metabolic rate rising. Think about him being agitated, chaotic, excited, and his heart is pumping, pumping, pumping. There is zero empirical forensic evidence, medical evidence of any biological mechanism.
Now let's just look at this screen. No life-threatening injuries identified. No facial, oral, mucosal, or conjunctival petechae. No injuries of anterior muscles of neck or laryngeal structures. No scalp, soft tissue, skull, or brain injuries. No chest wall soft tissue injuries, rib fractures, other than a single rib fracture from CPR. Vertebral column injuries or visceral injuries. Incision and subcutaneous dissection of posterior and lateral neck, shoulders, back, flanks, and buttocks, negative for occult trauma. Hey Siri, what's the definition of occult? This bitch, no. You gotta overpronounce everything. I had a feeling that might happen. Okay, let's see. No. It says supernatural, mystical, or magical beliefs, practices, or phenomena. Communicated only to the initiated. Not accompanied by readily discernible signs or symptoms. Yeah, okay. Medicine of a disease or problems. You're going to say, what the fuck? Not accompanied by readily discernible signs or symptoms. Okay, so there you go. So, basically, based on this autopsy, Derek Chauvin did not do anything life-threatening to George Floyd. Let's continue.
Physiological mechanism that would have interfered with George Floyd's ability to get sufficient oxygenated blood up into the brain. There's zero evidence of that.
There was another passenger in the vehicle, and that passenger was Mr. Floyd's drug dealer. However, he did not end up providing helpful testimony because of his own criminal liability.
Okay, and why would you not answer those?
I'm fearful of criminal charges going forward. I have open charges that's not settled yet of my personal stuff.
So basically you are invoking your Fifth Amendment right against compelled self-incrimination?
Yes, sir.
Found a what? A partially chewed up pill. Forensic analysis of the pill revealed fentanyl and methamphetamine as well as George Floyd's DNA. Oh my God.
There was some evidence that came out of chewed up pills that were found on the floor of the police car. It's very unclear to me why that evidence was not obtained earlier and presented to the jury. But I think if the jury had seen the entire picture, not only of Mr. Floyd's drug dependency, his multiple prior brushes with law enforcement, but his physical characteristics at the time of the incident and his ultimate death. Absent the interaction with the police, he could easily have died with the amount of drugs in his system with no knee on his neck or on his shoulder. And so to me, that would have suggested, if I were on that jury, reasonable doubt, but our system is such that a jury gets to decide that. Now, there were other factors, I think, that polluted the jury's ultimate ruling. You know, ultimately the jury reached its conclusion.
Right.
I'm praying the verdict is the right verdict, which is, I think it's overwhelming in my view.
We've got to get more confrontational, make sure that they know that we mean business.
I want to see the charge of the arresting officer take place. We are not talking about a split-second decision that was made incorrectly. I can't see coming to a different answer there. Thank you.
Real quickly, have you seen the body camera footage yourself?
No, I have not yet.
What?
The verdict is
what? You haven't? How could you just say that shit? You haven't seen that shit? What? What the fuck, man?
In the case that has riveted the nation, the trial of Derek Chauvin. The former Minneapolis police officer was found guilty today of killing George Floyd last May.
I just want to thank the prosecutors, I just want to thank God, the DNA, everybody. Amen. Amen. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
And I hope every killer cop is watching and paying attention, because today the Black Lives Matter movement served notice on you.
If you're not careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being oppressed, loving the people who are doing the oppressing. Let's say that again. If you're not careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing. Malcolm X. That's the show. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I will holler. Peace out, y'all. Stay safe. And if I say peace out again, hold me accountable.